So, for our last story, this is on the Conspiracy Iceberg, and it sounds a little ridiculous at first. But let's go ahead and strap ourselves in for this right. This is the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg. Bugs Bunny is actually a Native American spirit that has entered into the cartoon world. Now, at first you're thinking, well, that's ridiculous. I actually went and it's all ridiculous. All the stuff we talk about is ridiculous. You're not like, I'm done listening to this show. Bugs Bunny's real. Pfft. Click. I'm going to go listen to this other podcast. It's all ridiculous. If you've been in here for long enough, it's all ridiculous. But this is the theory. So Bugs Bunny is actually... And I had to do a bunch of research on the creation of Bugs Bunny, and I know that, they have like a whole list of creators who drew the first sketch and things like that. But that's not what we're really going to talk about, because we're going to get a little metaphysical here. There's this creepypasta going around, and I'll just read this to you. This is where this theory was first expressed, and it does get a little stupid at the end, just letting you know, but, we'll take it apart. Bugs Bunny is a Native American spirit. He's Michabou, the great hare form of MANABOZHO, demiurge of the Anishinaabe mythology. He's also a shapeshifter and a fourth-dimensional time-traveling being. There are birch bark scrolls kept in secret by Midwin and other Anishinaabe secret medicine societies which depict him as Bugs Bunny perfectly. So right there you're like, obviously we can't find the birch bark drawings or the scrolls to see if that matches up. So that you have to take with a grain of salt. But the idea that you have a spirit that has somehow entered into animated form, that's worth exploring. Now let's go to the rest of this creepypasta. He's also the Land O'Lakes Butter Girl. You know that girl, the package of the butter that you can cut it apart and make it look like your boobs are showing? That's who they're saying that he looks like. Anyways, he's also the Land O'Lakes Butter Girl. He uses the Drost effect, and that's the thing where you have a picture of someone holding a picture, and then in that picture they're holding the picture, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's an art trick. He uses that in the packaging as a kind of portal so he can enter our world from the spirit realm more easily. In reality, though, Michabou can be anything. So, the Land O'Lakes thing aside, we'll address that at the end. Let's talk about Bugs Bunny as a Native American spirit. So Michabou is a trickster god, which is how you could define Bugs Bunny. He's always changing shape, and Bugs Bunny puts on wigs and becomes women. He's actually a really good master of disguise, because he just puts on a wig and everyone thinks he's a woman. Now, what's interesting is that they took the people who wrote the Brer Rabbit stories, which was kind of an early trickster rabbit, they took their inspiration from Native American mythology to create Brer Rabbit. The idea of the morally ambiguous, naughty, but also kind of noble rabbit has been around for centuries, if not longer, in some Native American cultures. He's considered a god of trickster. He's considered a trickster god, a god of mischief, a god of mayhem, where he actually can't live in a world where everything is peaceful and quiet. If things are going right, he has to get his hands in it and kind of mess stuff up. And that stuff all kind of describes Bugs Bunny. And you're thinking, of course it does, Jason. You're working backwards. You said Brer Rabbit was inspired by Native American legends, and Brer Rabbit probably inspired a bit of Bugs Bunny. It's not too much of a stretch to think that the idea of having a trickster character in modern fiction is simply just a evolution of it coming from old storytelling. But let me say something here. You're probably right. However, what if it could work the other way around? If there was a Native American spirit, and he wanted to... This is an interesting concept, and I've thought about this for a long time, actually. Like years. If I was a deity, if I was like an ancient god, especially one who was pulling tricks, but just any sort of god, and people didn't worship me anymore, I would want for people to worship me again. And if that meant that I popped into the imagination of somebody who I knew could bring me to life, in a way that millions of people would worship me again, I'd do it. If Michabou has the ability, if he's a fourth dimensional time traveler, like is stated in the creepypasta, he would know that going into the collective consciousness of the people who worked at Looney Tunes or Leon Schlesinger Productions, I think was the original name of it, he would be able to see that these people could bring his form to fruition in the right way. Not some lame-o rabbit who's just be like, well, aw, shucks, Daffy, let's go. I mean, like, he knew that they would keep pushing him. He started off a little calmer, and then over the years, like, over a short span of time, actually, he started getting more and more rowdy. Because they were like, oh, this is funny, and then he fought in World War II and did a bunch of racist stuff, but he could see all that. Michabou could see that this group was going to do his story right. Now, I've always thought about, this is where I was thinking about this, is that imagine that you're some sort of dark god, and you have a form that can't really be explained to humans. A human mind can't conceive your form. But you need people to worship you again, so you go to someone who can basically draw an icon of you and get it out there. Because your giant, like, form that is incomprehensible to the human mind doesn't work. So someone has to draw an icon of you to worship, which would be the equivalent. I mean, we can't comprehend God, but we can look at a cross, a physical thing, and that's the same thing. Like, you can look at Jesus, but you can't. You can look at the human embodiment of these holy figures, but you can't really comprehend the creator above them. Does Mickey Mouse really look like a mouse? Really? But that icon, you can just see the outline of the ears and the circle. If you can make pancakes in that shape. Big circle, two little circles. That is an icon that is worshipped around the world, especially by children. What if that is some sort of dark god's sigil? And it put it out there. Watch, I'm never have a chance of doing anything with Disney after this. But what if that is the sigil of some dark god, or that grotesque face, that unrat-like looking face, is the closest you could get to the tiny jaw, the distended nose, and the big lumps on its face, the giant eyeballs. That's the closest that a human can come to imagining what this dark god looks like. And it goes to Walt Disney and says, I can make you rich and famous, but you need to make the world worship me. Or it just enters into his subconscious and just does it that way. No deal is made at all. If you believe in the possibility of demigods and gods and trickster spirits and a spirit world, it is not out of the realm of possibility to think that it somehow has influence over our world today. And to think that if there was a rabbit spirit could inspire people to create an animated version of it to be worshipped. But this theory is going a little bit farther. It's saying that the Bugs Bunny cartoon character we see is that spirit in that video footage, or in that animated cell, or in that stuffed animal. It's all of those things, which is actually far creepier. Because that means it's not simply inspiring people. That means that when you're watching that Bugs Bunny cartoon late at night, that ancient spirit is watching you back. It can be everywhere at once. It can travel through time. It knows everything it needs to know. So those old cartoons that you see, or even the new ones, you're watching Space Jam, and you happen to be sitting around in your boxers, and the Michabou's like, dude, put on a shirt. Ugh, gross. Or he could be like, ooh, he's kind of hot. I'm going to throw my wig on. And you're like, that's weird. I've never seen this scene before where Bugs Bunny has the wig on and is motioning me to come towards the screen. Very creepy. Very creepy. Obviously, 100% hypothetical. There's no proof of any of this. But the idea that in those hand drawings lies a spirit that transcends time and space. Every time you watch him, he's gaining power, or just gaining enjoyment from the fact that he's tricking you into thinking he's just a cartoon. But in reality, he's watching you. I don't know. Do I personally believe that Bugs Bunny... there's two theories, again. There's two ways to break it up. Do I personally think that Bugs Bunny is an ancient spirit who lives in every cartoon that he's in? And what we're seeing is actually him replaying the same thing over and over again because he thinks it's funny? No, probably not. Do I think that there is a spirit that could have inspired people to create an icon of him? I'm a little more on the side that could be possible, but again, it's unlikely. But this is where I said it at the beginning, that it actually has disturbing implications for all of fiction, because what if this is the only one we know of? Like my Mickey Mouse example is just an example, but what if Bugs Bunny is one that we can actually look at these scrolls and go, whoa, that actually is Bugs Bunny? But what other fictional characters could be out there that are based on something real and are existing in the fiction simply because they want to exist in the fiction? And at any point, I mean, is Katniss Everdeen really Athena? Again, probably not. But who's to say, really? I mean, other than science and common sense, but I mean, when we open the door up to this idea, and if we believe in these things, it's possible. I think the idea of waking up in bed in the middle of the night and have 3 gray aliens standing around my bed and I'm completely frozen, that's pretty unnerving. But waking up in the middle of the night, you know what? No, not even that. Walking down the street at noon, surrounded by people, and seeing Bugs Bunny, not a suit, but a creature that looks like Bugs Bunny in real life, looking across the street at me and waving his hand, is far more terrifying than anything I could think of involving aliens. And maybe that's exactly what the Trickster God wants. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.